All right, welcome back, folks, to WrestleRant here today. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews. For the next couple of episodes, we're talking all about the fully loaded pay-per-views as seen on the WWE Network. So today we're talking fully loaded 1998. So as you probably, if you've seen these shows before, have noticed that it gets gradually better as we go along. There's only 3 installments, 98, 99, and 2000. 98, not the best one, easily the worst one, and as anyone knows who has watched these WrestleRant videos for any stretch of period of time, for the last couple of months, for the past year or so, knows I'm just not too high on the 98 pay-per-views. I don't know, 98 wasn't a bad year for WWE. It was pretty much the crux of the Attitude Era, but I just don't love that year in WWE for whatever reason. Might not have been because of the great wrestling, because there wasn't much great wrestling. I don't know, it just wasn't really my type of year in wrestling, but not a bad year by any chance. It's not by any means, but it's just not my forte, so to speak. So just keep that in mind while we're listening to this review. I'm not biased in that respect, but probably why I did not enjoy the show as much as I probably should have. But anyway, kicking off the show, Val Venus taking on Jeff Jarrett in Val Venus's pay-per-view debut. Alright match. Jeff Jarrett, he was a basic, essential, glorified mid-card competitor, but he had a great gimmick and he was a good wrestler too. So he carried Val Venus to a pretty good match, and Val Venus picked up the win as he should have. Really not much more to say other than that. D'Lo Brown taking on X-Pac up next. D'Lo Brown was fresh off winning the European Championship, which was not on the line here for whatever reason. A good little match, better than the opener, not as good as some of the matches they would have later on down the line. It seemed like they would have a better match than you would probably expect from them, that you would probably expect from these two considering how great of wrestlers they were, but it was just kind of there. Like I said, there really wasn't anything to the match considering the championship wasn't on the line, so there really was no sense of importance or any sense of drama or suspense. The match was just kind of there. But like I said, as a well-wrestled little match, it was fine for what it was. After that, we had Farouk and Scorpio taking on Terry Funk and Justin Bradshaw, JBL, of course. Too Cold Scorpio was Scorpio, obviously. And Terry Funk being Texas Chainsaw, Farouk being Ron Simmons. Everyone pretty much having a different name than what you probably know them by. But anyway, the match was total throwaway. They were building to the split between Farouk and Scorpio, despite the fact they had just started teaming. And then Terry Funk and Bradshaw, or rather Funk and Bradshaw, they were building to a split too. Whereas with Farouk and Scorpio, they were undefeated as a tandem. I forgot to mention that. But Bradshaw ended up breaking off on his own for a little while, and it was weird too because I knew they obviously teased tension between him and Terry Funk, with Funk saying that I'll be taking a break from WWE. This will be my last match for the next 6 months or so. So it kind of seemed like they planted the seeds for dissension before the match even started, before they even really started teaming, so that was kind of pointless. But I figured not only would he turn on Terry Funk here, but he would join Farouk and they would do a double turn or something. Obviously, they would go on to become the Acolytes, APA, whatever. That did not happen here. He attacked Farouk after the match along with Scorpio and Funk. So that would happen a little bit later on down the line. I don't know how much sooner after this pay-per-view they would join forces and form that tag team, but that would not happen here. The match itself, though, like I said, was total throwaway. Speaking of throwaway, Mark Henry versus Vader up next. Again, complete throwaway match. Nobody gave a shit. It seemed like a good match on paper for a typical big man versus big man match, but Vader was not motivated at all. He meant nothing by this point. No one cared about Mark Henry, so the match died to death as a result. Mark Henry won. Again, another match I did not give two craps about. The Disciples of Apocalypse taking on LOD 2000. Hawk and Animal were teasing dissension as well. We had Paul Ellering managing the Disciples of Apocalypse, DOA. Just the whole convoluted storyline. No one really seemed to care. The match sucked. LOD 2000 was not a good gimmick. I liked it when they came back at WrestleMania for that surprise return where they won in Chicago. But other than that, no one gave a crap about these guys whatsoever. Was that Chicago? I'm pretty sure it was. Maybe not. But they did come back in 1998 and just no one gave a crap whatsoever. Anyway, so after that we had our first really good match of the night, in my opinion. It did not last long, but I thoroughly enjoyed this match. A dungeon match with Dan Severn as the special guest referee between Owen Hart and Ken Shamrock in the dungeon, the Hart Dungeon, whatever you want to call it. I thought this was great. We would not get many of these matches. I know the Lions Den matches, there were only 3 of those. I don't know how many dungeon matches we got. This might have been the only one. But if so, I loved it. Maybe not loved it, but I thought it was really good. Maybe my expectations were low because the rest of the card wasn't all that great. But I thought for a concept, I thought it was really innovative. They kind of made the most of it. They threw each other into the wall. They were kind of limited in terms of what they were given to work with. It was basically a basement. But in throwing each other against the wall a number of times and almost through the window, which I was hoping for, which we did not ultimately get, I think Owen Hart threw Ken Shamrock into the pipe at the top of the ceiling. He threw him through the ceiling, through the roof, or whatever. and his head busted through the roof or through the ceiling. That was pretty entertaining. Owen Hart won after Ken Shamrock was knocked out. He threw a dumbbell in his face, and then he feigned him tapping out, so Owen Hart picked up the fluke victory. So again, Owen Hart, in combination and combining him being thoroughly entertaining, this being an innovative concept, and Ken Shamrock just being freaking Ken Shamrock, I thought this was great, and I'm surprised they wouldn't do more of these matches in the future. Maybe they did, but not many of these come to mind, other than the Lions Den matches, which were a little bit different. So after that, we had a 2 out of 3 falls match between Rock and Triple H for the Intercontinental Championship. The Rock was the defending champion going in. And a really good match, not as good as some of their later encounters in 99 and in 2000, but still a really, really good match. And this is what I love about 2 out of 3 falls matches, which I've talked about before here on WrestleRant and WrestleRant Radio, whatever else. That with 2 out of 3 falls matches, I feel like it should feel like 3 matches in one. Triple H won 1, The Rock won 1, and the third fall ended in a draw. So the match ended in a draw, and The Rock retained the Intercontinental Championship. It should not feel like the first fall is over in 5 minutes and the second fall's over in 2 minutes after that. Because this was a one fall match. Why would the match be over in 5 minutes? I just saw these guys go 20 minutes in the previous pay-per-view. You know what I mean? That's what I typically don't like about 2 out of 3 falls matches. And I talked about that in my Battleground review for 2014 a couple of weeks ago. If you want to go back and check that out, G-Plug. But yeah, I really like this match. I mean, Rock and Triple H had great chemistry in 98, 99, 2000. I felt like their chemistry was at its best in 2000, but their matches in 98 and 99 were also pretty good. I feel like the only thing this match suffered from was constant interference from DX and the Nation of Domination. It just was completely overshadowing the match itself to the point where it got annoying. And I feel like that was the story. I understand that was the story of the matchup with all the interference, and neither guy could win on their own. It was a huge faction war. I understand that. But I felt like the match quality suffered as a result, but taking that away and even taking it into consideration, it was still a really good match, building to an even better match, a great match rather, at SummerSlam, the ladder match, the Intercontinental Championship between Rock and Triple H. After that, we had a bikini contest between Jacqueline and Sable. Was basically what you would expect it to be. Sable was DQ'd after not really wearing a bikini, or Vince came down and covered her up, but the bikini itself was iconic. It was the bikini in quotes, where she had the handprint on her breasts, and that was it. Just the handprint on her boobs, and that was pretty much it. So it wasn't really a bikini, but it was thoroughly entertaining to say the least. So that was great for what it was. I mean, again, it wasn't really women's wrestling. There really was no such thing as women's wrestling in 1998. But in terms of entertainment, this succeeded in what it set out to do. That's really all I could say about it. And then we get to the main event. Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Undertaker, who was conspicuous by his absence in the first half of the show. Vince McMahon came out earlier on in the evening saying that if Undertaker did not show up, in the rare occasion that he did not show up, the Brooklyn Brawler would be Stone Cold's tag team partner. Thankfully, that was not the case. Taker did show up, and they took on Kane and Mankind for the World Tag Team titles. In a pretty good match, not a great match, building to, and I'll talk about that in a second, this whole pay-per-view was about build, but they would build to the Stone Cold and Taker match or SummerSlam, so this match was really all about teasing tension between those two for the WWE Championship. But anyway, on any other show, as an undercard match, it probably would have been an average standard tag team match I didn't really care too much about. But on a show that really lacked strong in-ring action, I gave it not 2 thumbs up, but it's a lot better than most of the other matches on this show. So I was entertained by it for what it was. You had a lot of tension going on there between Stone Cold and Taker. The match itself was really good. A lot of suspenseful near falls, a lot of close counters, down the stretch with multiple breakups of the pinfalls, blah, blah, blah. In the end, Taker taking out, I believe, Kane, tombstoning him to pick up the victory, and becoming the new World Tag Team Champions. Like I said, Stone Cold and Taker, don't think they would last long as champions, as World Tag Team Champions. I think they dropped the belts right before SummerSlam. I do not recall them going into the pay-per-view as tag team champs. I might be mistaken, but I don't think they were champions at that point in time. But anyway, like I said, a good match to close out a very mediocre show, which is not, again, surprising. Maybe not for me, just because I didn't think 98 was a great in-ring year. Storyline-wise, sure, and all the controversy and chaos surrounding Vince McMahon and Stone Cold and everyone else in the McMahon-Helmsley regime or the corporation, whatever the hell you want to call them, wasn't surprising in that respect, so I wasn't really surprised this was kind of a mediocre show. But overall, not that great of a show. I would not recommend watching the show in full unless you have a nostalgia thing for 1998. But like I said earlier, the constant theme throughout the show is building towards SummerSlam. The main event built to Stone Cold and Undertaker. Rock and Triple H built to a better match at SummerSlam for the IC title in the ladder match. DOA versus LOD led to DOA versus one of the other factions, I think Nation of Domination, or one of those factions. We had a whole fucking faction war at SummerSlam that year. A lot of these matches built to even bigger rematches at SummerSlam, so this show itself was kind of throwaway. It was an in-your-house pay-per-view technically, but it was categorized under the in-your-house pay-per-views, or rather under the fully loaded pay-per-views on WWE Network. So when I talk about the in-your-house pay-per-views, I'll be skipping over this one, and that's not for another couple more months, probably not until the beginning of 2017, which is not for a while, obviously, not for another 6 months. But anyway, overall, would not really watch this show. Any match worth watching was obviously Rockin' Triple H. Even that, I would say their SummerSlam match is infinitely better, so I would hold out for SummerSlam 98. Check that out on the WWE Network. So overall, not a great show, but check it out at your leisure if you enjoy the Attitude Era content from 1998. So that's it, folks, my review of Fully Loaded 1998. Thank you for watching and listening as always. Until next time, you guys can follow me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/graham.dsm.matthews. And right here on YouTube by liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. All support is amazingly appreciated. So obviously, my next video will be covering Fully Loaded 1999. After that, Fully Loaded 2000, which was an amazing show. Just got finished watching that. Can't wait to talk about it in 2 more episodes. Then after that, The Invasion. Then after that, all my King of the Ring pay-per-view reviews, which I can't wait to watch and review as well. So until next time, guys, I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch you folks down the road.